Hello there, Bick Benedict here. We're playing Gears of War, Raam Shadow, and this is my insane difficulty guide and walkthrough. We're currently on chapter 2 of 6. It is entitled Darkness Spreads. So you control the main character here for a few moments, and then it's going to switch to the first ROM slash RAM, however you want to say it, section. And to me, these really aren't fun sections. I do not like them. I don't really hate them. I don't have a massive contempt for them, but I just feel like they're not fun. The controls don't feel very what's the word? They're responsive enough. It just doesn't feel like you get enough feedback, and that's just not really good because it doesn't give you that immersion into the game that the main game does. So he has one move. Basically, he'll throw the krill, and the krill are your shield. So when you don't have them, you're going to get damaged. You get minor chip damage even if you have the krill on you. And then there's also the charging move where you hold B. And while you throw the krill out, that is going to represent the red bar. See the red bar on the top right? That's going to represent your cooldown time before you can use them again. And you're basically just going from one street to the next on this part and trying to memorize the spawns and giving this guy with the hammer enough time to allow the cedar to come up. And this first part is kind of a long checkpoint actually. There's some guys that grapple down from there. And then obviously this guy doesn't go into cover because he's so massive. But it doesn't stop you from finding advantageous places to stand, like behind trucks and cars and things like that. So you've got to really be careful about how you manage the krill. And as it says in the tooltips or the loading screen, I'm not sure where it is exactly, but fire and he even has a move where he can mantle over things, and I thought that was kind of funny because it's completely unnecessary, but I guess it allows him a little bit more flexibility when he moves around if he's trying to take a shortcut or something. But fire and power weapons, namely the boom shot and the torque bow, those will disperse the krill from you. If you've played the first game and fought him, you'll know the conceit, and it should be very apparent to you. But the main thing is, once you break down a wall to get to another section, don't just I just would not recommend that you go in full tilt without sizing up where people are and putting yourself in a dangerous spot right away. So things like this, I hide behind the van. There's an enemy with a one shot to the right, and you might also see me click in the button to target enemies or mark them. I mainly do that. Obviously, it's not going to help anything if enemies are on a high perch, because our teammates are ground-based enemies. So right here, just shoot the chopper down. But I was saying, the power weapons, torque bow, boom shot, I think maybe the shotgun too, but I'm not sure about that. That will disperse your shield and you'll take massive damage. It won't kill you, but you'll be at the verge of death, and you'll need to just stand there and wait for the krill to come back. And if they don't come back quickly enough, enemies can get in more hits on you. Okay, so this next part over here, you notice we did get a checkpoint a moment ago. I shouldn't have gone in so far right there. I should have just let these guys come around the corner for me. The teammates do a really good job of helping clear these enemies. So he basically has two moves that he does, and in a moment you'll see the tutorial that we saw in the beginning of the game come up again. It's the second time it comes up. However, it's not a tutorial that's telling you anything new. It's the same tutorial from earlier. So I don't think you can turn those off. He also, I mean, if you want to think about a third move that he has, he also can melee enemies. So when you hit them, they'll fall to the ground, and then they're executable.
So he doesn't have too many moves, and indeed the draw of this DLC, if you want to call it DLC, I'm not sure what exactly it is. The draw of this this campaign, as it were, is definitely not these sections. The draw of it definitely is the nice experience that it is, the combat, and the harkening back to the grub holes. I really like those. I think they're very strategic, and they pay off. Reward you for thinking beyond the pale of the normal player of what he would be thinking about. Not that anything that he's thinking about is bad, but so we have a repeat of the tutorial message. It's not a new move, but you do have a new enemy over here. It's the human in the mech. So once you destroy the and this guy was about to throw a grenade, I think, so you need to be careful of those, because those will disperse the krill and leave you vulnerable. But once you destroy the mech, it is destroyed, and nobody else can jump onto it and reuse it. Even though it might not look like it's destroyed, the conceit is that you killed whoever was manning it, and then nobody else is going to be jumping on it, causing you more problems. There are two combat sections with the main group after this, and you'll definitely want to be on this campaign. You'll want to be hoarding your grenades. It's not something you usually have to do in Gears, but there's a lot of instances on these levels or chapters where they just don't populate the areas with much at all, especially not with grenades. So I also should mention, if you don't want to take part in sealing holes is optional. So if you don't want to partake in it, you can just wait for the hole to fill in. It will, after a certain amount of time, cave in, and thereafter no more enemies can spawn. You got to be careful over here though, because anytime you're in this last area, there's a guy with a turret that you need to be careful of, and then there's an instance of a guy with a boom shot, and he repeats. His spawn repeats in the same area too. The main saving grace is the fact that he takes so long to reload, but he's over here, and once you push forward and have these get killed, as well as your main teammates set up for the next site of the nemesis, or whatever that thing is that gets put underground. You need to be careful because of that boom shotter. He's coming right up here where I'm looking at. So once you get the objective marked off, he's going to be coming fairly soon, and you'll see it's not instant death, and he missed there, which was another saving grace. But he does put you to the brink of death, and then if anything else hits you, you're definitely going to be killed. So after a certain amount of time, I really don't know what propels the next one out, but you definitely want to be staying behind some piece of cover. This is a pretty decent piece of cover. Now I focused on the turret guy across the way, but you don't have to kill him obviously for this next guy to come out. So you need to be very careful. And the checkpoint is not very good over here either. You'll be placed back right before the time when you had that message about the Crowfinger tutorial come up. So that's the final checkpoint. You don't have to do much, but you have to clear these two areas. And I say you don't have to clear too much. It's mainly those last two parts. The second of which is not very long, but it's quite deadly. Now, do you see where we started out right there with our teammates? If you reversed in your tracks, there's a pair of grenades that I'm going to be picking up, I think, off screen at the end of this. So I am going to be coming back here. The moment the Raam section ends and you get control of your character here, turn around, and then around a corner behind some crates is a pair of grenades. So when you come up here, there's a hole that I would recommend sealing with the boom shot around the corner like that, because the frag grenades take too long to aim. These guys will put you down fast. Not instant death, but they will put you to the brink of it. There's two of them here, and I'm gonna rush this next part. I'm gonna run past the mortars, and I'm gonna seal these holes. I had very little success sealing these holes successfully in time with the boom shot, so I decided, since the frag grenades, you don't have to reload frag grenades, free throwing them is the fastest way to do this. And if you're careful about this, you're going to be sacrificing your aim, but it isn't too bad, and you want to seal those two holes and then run back to cover. And there's two boomers to deal with. The mortars can't hit you from under here. And you're going to be getting your boom shots back after this fight, so don't worry, because there's two boomers here. There's also an infinite supply of boom shots at the end of the chapter in the next sequence, which I really don't care for. But I'm resorting to my snub of all things over here because I really didn't have anything left to shoot him with. The long shot not being very good of an option for me right there. But those two holes, definitely want to seal those. If you want to deal with the mortars in the sequence prescribed by the game, what's going to happen is, I believe after you kill the first of the two guys with the mortars, you'll have the holes start spawning, and by then it's too dangerous because there's another mortar out that could kill you while you're trying to seal those holes. So what I would do is I would deal with the mortars last. Now it's risky either way, but you are putting a pretty firm stop into the spawns over here, so you don't have to deal with hardly as much if you do it this way. Now I did use those two grenades, right? So we're down to two, and it's very important too about these grenades because there's only two more coming up, and you want to start chapter 3 with 4 frag grenades because you don't hardly get any frag grenades on chapter 3's early part. So there was an edit over here in which I did run back to that area that I mentioned, and I picked up the 2 frag grenades, so I'm back up to 4. And then there's also a couple of frag grenades coming up that you could get at any time. See, even though this fight is finished, you can go all the way back to the starting point and get those 2 grenades behind the crates. Also, same goes for this part up here with the Brumac. At any time, you can go back and get these 2 frag grenades that I'm going to point out over here. Obviously, if you've killed the Brumac, the bleed out screen is going to occur pretty soon, so you won't have much time. But these 2 right over here, I believe I point them out. So these, you can come back to these at any point before the bleed out screen is finished. Okay, so once you get out here, you immediately want to seal the hole across the way using the boom shot. It's right over here. Seal this, and once you've sealed this, you'll know that you've done it correctly because you'll get the next hole to spawn. It's right over here. I would not use a grenade here, I would use a boom shot. The reason being is just because if you don't want to go back and get those grenades, it could be just takes too long. So it's better to just use all of the resources here, the boom shots, the infinite amount of them, to seal those 2 holes. And then since you did that, you sealed those 2 holes, you won't have anybody coming from the left to bother you. And then the grapplers should be at a minimum over here. You don't have to worry about any grapplers over to the right too much. They never bothered me. Of course, I'm sure they'll bother you and cause you a big problem, but they never bothered me. And then it's a matter of shooting these columns down using the boom shots. What I dislike about this is the lack of a checkpoint in between this section and the Brumac, because the Brumac can really put you down fast, and it's ideal to use the boom shot on the Brumac when he comes out. So I found a pretty decent spot right in front of where the boom shots resupply, and that way, because you're going to run out of boom shots, you only get 6, and he takes like at least 2, like 12, depending on where you're hitting him, if you're hitting him in the right spots. Even though the right spot is kind of hard to determine because everybody's telling you to shoot it in a different spot, until finally the main character here just says shoot it in the head. So I think if you shoot it in the head, you're perfectly you're on the right track. It doesn't matter if you shoot it his wrist cannons, his head cannon, because everybody's going to be telling you to shoot it in a different spot. It's kind of annoying, but before you start fighting the Brumac, you want to refill on your boom shots. And remember, if you have not enough frag grenades over here, you'll want to run back and get those, preferably before the Brumac starts. And this is a situation where you could fail the objective, so this has to be done fast as well. So the first boom shot that I do, I go for an active. So you might have seen before the fight even started, I shot just a random round of the boom shot so that once I started using it, I can get an active on my first round, deal a little bit more damage. But I like standing behind this crate here because it's right next to the boom shots and there's not much risk in going back and getting those boom shots. Although if he's using his chain gun, he'll put you down very fast. Ideally, you want to go back and refill your booms when he's taunting and not doing anything, because if he's using the gun or the rockets, there's a chance that you can get put down. So it's such a stressful situation though, because you really don't want to be waiting around for him to do anything because of that timed aspect of the fight where you can fail the objective, because it's an escort mission. You're protecting a convoy down the street. But before the bleed out screen ends, make sure you pick up more booms and refill your boom shots. Refill with the long shot. There's a long shot in this area too. Just make sure you're filled out with everything, and then we will transition to chapter 3. So please take care.